This is an LLD production.
Welcome to this episode of Owlia's Opinions with Lulu McDonald, the podcast in which we take a better look into the world we love, learn new things, and debate the toughest issues the world has in store. I am one half of your co-host, Armon Owlia. I am a journalism student here at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and it's time to enter the new School of Thought. So first of all, thank you guys for tuning into the program, not only today, but every time we've been on the air. It is indeed a labor of love and a constant state of evolution, including with today's episode. There's so much to talk about, including a review and discussion of an Oscar-winning documentary, an in-depth analysis into a punishment system used in 30 states, and an unfortunate truth about a historic time in America. But all for the wrong reasons. So with that, let's get started. Something people don't know about me is that I'm a major cinephile. I have loved watching and making movies ever since I was about 4 years old, and I have been fortunate to have seen a grand range of films and documentaries that have made me both feel and learn. So it surprises me when I find out that there are many films and documentaries that I have seen and been moved and informed by when others have not watched them. And so, starting today, we're going to be talking about some of these films and documentaries with a special guest panelist every episode. I'm fortunate to be joined today by a friend of mine, former NBC, WHYY, and NPR contributor Roy Aguilar. Roy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. The very first piece we'll talk about is one that's a personal favorite of mine and one that I think has not only aged well, but also has shown how many things have not changed in this country. It's the Michael Moore documentary Bowling for Columbine, in which Moore travels across the United States and into Canada to figure out why so many people are being shot and killed in America. In my mind, he leaves no stone unturned, as he looks at every supposed cause of these shootings, even going so far as to interviewing rock singer Marilyn Manson after the Columbine shooters were reported to be major fans of the artist. Interviews, too, with James Nichols, members of the LAPD, American teenagers suspected of openly admitting to bomb-making, a member of the PR team for Lockheed Martin, and former Cops producer Dick Herrlin create a well-rounded picture that is not only entertaining but informative, making the point clear about institutional failure as the cause of gun violence. There's only one moment of the documentary that irks me, and it's about Moore's take on sensationalism in American media, in particular the local news. However, Moore does use sensationalism himself, in particular at the end of the interview with then NRA President Charlton Heston, placing a picture of a 6-year-old shooting victim at his doorstep before walking away. However, apart from that moment, I think Bowling for Columbine is a documentary that takes extraordinary steps to look at a problem that gets worse every day, and not only puts a light on it, but also a cause. So overall, I liked it very much, and I recommend everyone to watch it considering the recent events in Las Vegas, Parkland, and Pittsburgh. An informative piece for an inquisitive audience. Roy?
Wait, so you said you didn't like the whole local media portrayal?
I thought that was fine. I just thought his interview with Charlton Heston at the end, that was a complete contradiction of everything he talked about.
Being that, because of what I got it is from, I think this is, and you can disagree with me if you want, I think this is Moore's most balanced documentary, and I'm saying that lightly because he still obviously leans left in this documentary, but he doesn't say, I'm anti-gun. He's just questioning why.
Yeah, on the contrary, he's a member of the NRA.
Yeah, which which I think is interesting. You know, he brings up all these theories of like, why is America so fascinated with guns, particularly with shooting the gun.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, as you saw in the documentary, he also went to Canada, and people have guns too.
Yeah,
you know?
and there's so many similarities between Canada and the United States, and yet Canada has so much less gun crime than the United States.
What I got out of it was, you know, if we are to blame, you know, where this sensationalism came from is, you know, you find it in the U.S. media and the U.S. government. You know, the U.S. government. There was a particular part, I don't know if I can talk about particular parts in the movie.
No, go ahead.
I don't want to spoil it for the folks out there, but there's a particular scene that just, you know, when you know something hits you when you gulp and you feel that gulp.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where he showed this montage, and there's a lot of them, this montage of all of these bombings that Bill Clinton did during his time as
in
president.
Kosovo.
Yeah, in Kosovo and I think Serbia. I think they blew up a Serbian school
in the Balkan area.
Yeah, and you know, when Bill Clinton gave a speech about the bombings, he was just saying, you know, we have to protect our own or something like that. You know, very unsympathetic towards the civilians and the casualties. Yeah. But 1 hour later, the Columbine shooting happened, and he was like, "Oh, we got to think about the parents. We got to think about the children." Yeah. When an hour before, you know, no sympathy towards the people who died and, you know, the bombings. So the United States has this history of solving their problems with violence. And, you know, it you know, to us as citizens, we're like, oh, crap, I can do it too, you know? And you see that with, you know, with people, with the people in the documentary that he was, Michael Moore was speaking with. They were all like, I got to defend myself, so I'm going to carry. Yeah. You know, when I feel like that's just a ludicrous thing to say. You got people who live in the suburbs. What do you need a gun for? Nothing happens over there.
Well, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, though, is not just, you know, the fear of violence and the paranoia. It's also partially due to, you know, like for example, the Caleb Rowland shooting, which they brought up in Flint. It wasn't necessarily because of violence in media. It was because, unfortunately, the parents weren't there and they were not in a position where they could easily take a look at that. There's so many reasons for that. Yeah. And I think Moore definitely takes a look at...
Are you referring to like when the 6-year-old kid shot the girl?
Yeah, that's correct.
The 6-year-old girl? Yeah. That was carelessness. Because I have family members, a few who have guns in the household and who also have children. You gotta, you know, when you own a gun, you gotta be responsible. You know, if you have a loaded gun, put a lock on the trigger. You know, there are locks. There's no reason why, like, you know, and put your gun in like in a safe place where only you know where it is, or you or someone responsible. Too many people out there, when it comes to just tragedies like that shouldn't be happening. It's because, you know, the person's irresponsible with, you know, such a I think I would call a gun a weapon of mass destruction, because it could destroy so many lives.
I agree with you.
What are you gonna say?
Yeah. So in terms of the, I want to just quickly go back to the Heston interview before we wrap this up. You understood, though, what I meant when in terms of the sensationalism part of it, because I thought the interview was going fine up until he said, you know, don't you want to apologize? And then Charlton Heston walks out of the interview, which obviously he shouldn't necessarily be doing. Yeah. But then Michael Moore just follows him around and said, like, this is the girl who got shot in Flint. Do you think that was taking a bit of a step too far?
I think that's what Michael Moore is known for. It was a bit out of left field, right? Like, I feel like it kind of ruined the tone of the documentary overall.
Even though it was at the end.
Right? Because at the end, you know, he keeps bringing up footage of, you know, what's the guy's name?
Charlton Heston?
Not From My Cold Hands.
Yeah, Charlton Heston.
Yeah, him. He keeps bringing up footage. So this is obviously, this whole documentary is leading up to that interview, to that, 5 to 10 minute interview with Charlton Heston. And, you know, Michael Moore that's his thing. You know, that's his trademark, I guess, as a documentarian. Like he puts the interviewee that he has in question into awkward positions. So yeah, it was it threw me off guard, but it's a very Michael Moore thing to do. So I'm okay with it because it was Michael Moore. Had it been anyone else, it'd be like, well, what is this guy doing?
Fair enough.
I was intrigued as to why he would choose like that picture of that girl instead of the many other victims that he spoke about.
I think it's because the fact that this was a 6-year-old girl, and at the time this was the youngest fatality in a school shooting. This is before, of course, Sandy Hook, and so I mean, this is extremely tragic. And in terms of that, I understand why he chose that particular picture. So overall, because we got to wrap this up very soon. What do you think of the movie? Do you recommend people to go see it?
Yeah, like I haven't seen a documentary that, like I saw it when I was in high school, but I was in high school, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. When I rewatched it, it struck a chord, and to strike a chord now, means that it's still, the message still holds today,
It aged really well.
Yeah, it aged really well, and, I gotta give props to Michael Moore. People give him shit. I don't know if I can curse in this.
No, I'll bleep it out.
Okay, people give him shit for many things. For saying that Trump was going to win, for saying capitalism sucks, and people. He's a very misunderstood guy who has really good intentions for the country as a private citizen and a filmmaker.
Yeah. So overall, recommend go see it.
Yeah, I recommend to go see it. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. I mean, on the hot, not neutral scale that we established here, I've given it a hot. Obviously, you can go on lovelearndebate.com and take a look at that. Roy, thank you very much for stopping by and taking time out of your schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to know what you guys thought of the film. Do you guys agree with us? Do you disagree? Either way, go to www.lovelearndebate.com, click on the Love tab, and you'll find my review there. You can put any questions and thoughts in the comments section. So we're going to take a short break. When we come back after the song by Tom Hansen, we will talk about a form of punishment in the American justice system that is said to be very effective. Or is it? We'll be back after this.
Haven't been great for a while. I miss your smile and that adorable laugh that you give to me every night. But you're drained as we watch the falling rain. Your eyes are closed but you're not sleeping. Mine's running but it's not dreaming. But I know a city not too far away that can help amend your soul. And I hope you'll remember that night, making snowmen at midnight. Oh yeah, yeah. I think we both need to get a break from this town. So drop your plans and take my hand. We'll make our great escape to Albany. Albany. Last time we were here, every single one of our fears disappeared. The hard part was the journey. Then we witnessed the b-ball tourney. Entertained from the first pass. The guys kicked some ass. And the other squad, well, at least they had class. And I hope you'll remember that night, making snowmen at midnight. Oh yeah, yeah. I think we both need to get a break from this town. So drop your plans and take my hand and spend a week with with me in Albany. There's nothing in this world I wouldn't do for ya, 'cause you were the answer to a prayer of a broken, now blessed man. If you can't stay, I understand. Meet me back here when you can. I know that I will wait for you until your broken past is far behind you. And I hope you'll remember that night, making snowmen at midnight. Oh yeah, yeah. I think we both need to get the hell out of this town. Oh, we're singing and this time we'll get it right. This time you'll sleep tonight. And every time I close my eyes and I see Cora and me forever in Albany.
So that was Albany by Tom Hansen, and in my opinion, I think this is a performance that should be listened to whenever you want to relax. That also reminds me of driving out on the open road, and you need a song to not only sing to, but also just, to enjoy the country roads. And it's definitely a tune that's caught on for me over the last month. I liked it a lot. I hope everyone else likes it, and I hope that we can get more of Tom's work on the program. Job well done to him. I know he's probably listening, so well done. Again, this was Albany by Tom Hansen. His most recent album, Sunbreaking, is available on iTunes and Spotify. All links will be in the description. It all began for me as a 13-year-old boy on May the 2nd, 2011, in a small, heavily fortified compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. It was on this night that SEAL Team 6, after nearly a decade, found and killed Al-Qaeda leader and 9/11 mastermind, Osama bin Laden. At the time, I was nothing but happy and proud because a person who is the embodiment of evil had finally met his demise and could no longer indirectly hurt innocent men, women, and children through his direction. I still am to some degree. However, as time went on and I better understood Islamist extremism, and the more these events had happened, the more my mind slowly began to change. Then came the events inside a Boston courtroom on June 24, 2015, when Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, one half of the brothers who committed the Boston Marathon bombings in the name of Islam, was sentenced, after a trial, to death. While I knew he and his late brother Tamerlan were tremendously evil, and I had a personal stake in the tragedy, I knew that the death penalty was not the right sentence. Why put an end so quickly when you could lock Tsarnaev for life in solitary confinement to drown in his own guilt and insanity? It sounds terrible, but keep in mind, this was my mindset then towards a man who had planted a bomb at the finish line of one of the most well-known races in the world and ended up ruining so many lives. In the end, Tsarnaev was sentenced to death, and ever since, my thoughts on capital punishment have been mixed. So as a result, I decided to, once and for all, look at both sides of the argument, to take a look at the positives and negatives, and most importantly the gray matter that comes with the territory. So what is capital punishment? In short, historically, capital punishment, better known as the death penalty, is a system of criminal punishment that goes as far back as the ancient Babylonians and the infamous Code of Hammurabi in approximately the 18th century BCE. In fact, when it was created initially, murder was not a crime that was punishable by death, but rather offenses related to theft. It wasn't until the time of the ancient Egyptians 2 centuries later that the first documented execution was recorded, and from there the death penalty evolved quickly. For example, in the Draconian Code of Athens created by the ancient Greeks, every crime was punishable by death. The death penalty would become crueler under the Romans, in which the method was different for nobility, freemen, and slaves, and could be in response to anything from libel to murder. The methods, too, would become even worse, including crucifixion, which would be discontinued during the reign of Constantine, drowning at sea, being buried alive, being beaten to death, and, under the reign of the infamous Emperor Nero, impalement. Now, the death penalty has been well documented as a common form of punishment not only in the Middle Ages, but even to the present day, with some of the most well-known criminals and evil masterminds meeting their ends through execution, as well as some of the most infamous events in history, such as the Salem witch trials, being mass executions. However, as time went on, many countries outright abolished the death penalty due to its cruelty and overall ineffectiveness, with Amnesty International stating, quote, "The death penalty is the ultimate cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment." They even further justify their beliefs by saying, quote, "The death penalty breaches human rights, in particular the right to life and the right to live free from torture or cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment." However, people tend to disagree with the death penalty being ineffective. Why? Because the bad guys who commit the crimes end up dead, right? Well, mostly. According to a recent study, it is estimated that about 4% of those executed on death row are actually innocent. And while 4% doesn't sound like much, it's 4% too many, and as such, can be considered a massive miscarriage of justice. Not only that, but even according to the Supreme Court of 1972, the current system of the death penalty, which has remained the same for the past 47 years, has been declared unconstitutional. However, the ruling has been lost over time due to the numerous occasions to which the court has ruled in favor of capital punishment and its lack of violation to the 8th Amendment of the Constitution regarding cruel and unusual punishment. Not only that, but the cost to execute someone on death row is twice the amount spent on life imprisonment, and in a time where we need to preserve the economy and better allocate its fundings, is it beneficial to put money towards killing people when holding them in captivity, with no way out being the better option? However, despite all of what has been said, the United States is one of 55 countries that enforce the death penalty, and has the 5th highest amount of executions. The 4 countries ahead of the United States: Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Iran, and China. Not exactly a list that people in the United States should necessarily be proud of. Despite all these arguments, however, the death penalty should not immediately just be thrown away, because many people are right. There are people in this world who deserve nothing less than death for the crimes they have committed, such as Adolf Hitler and members of his regime. However, for every Hitler who deserves to die, there's someone like Osama bin Laden, who masterminded the 9/11 attack, but should not have been executed due to increasing religious martyrdom of bin Laden in the modern day of Islamic fundamentalism. With so much gray matter, it's impossible to say whether or not the death penalty should continue on or fade away. However, one thing's for sure: don't do the crime, because we all know that no one wants to do the time. So what do you guys think? Did you agree or disagree? Either way, please go to www.lovelanddebate.com, click on the Learn tab, and you'll find the article there. Put any questions and thoughts in the comment section. So, we're going to take a short break. When we come back after the latest single by Jack with No K, available on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud, I'll close out the show by discussing an ongoing historic event, which is historic for all the wrong reasons.
Well, it's late at night when you see, as you look up from your TV, how you do. she's headed out the door in that dress you've never seen before. Yeah, it's true. So what are you to do? 'Cause you wanna say what's on your mind, but you don't wanna start a fight. Yeah, when you're supposed to go, 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 then you'll find that you won't see it till the daylight. Oh, she's heading out the door, and you say, I really wish you'd stay. But she's guilty in the face, guilty in the eyes. She won't even meet your gaze as you say goodbye. No, something isn't right. 'Cause you know that you love her so, but the only thing you want to know is when you're supposed to go, 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 then you'll find that you won't see it till the daylight. Well, it's late at night when you see your reflection in that empty screen. Yeah, it's true. So what are you to do? 'Cause you're beat down, broken like a wrecking machine that you left on repeat. And you don't really know what you're living for, 'cause all you really know is that your love's sore. And you know you love her so, but the only thing you want to know is when you're supposed to go. Yeah, when you're supposed to go, when you're supposed to go, when you're supposed to go, then you'll find that you won't see it till the daylight.
And now, some final thoughts. A debate to start at the end of this program. There's an old saying that politics is like a game of chess, with two sides of the same game battling it out to see who can take control of the board. And, as simplistic as the metaphor is, it holds up, especially within the government shutdown that began on December 22nd. On one side, the Republican Party, led by President Donald Trump and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Their ultimate goal is to put up the funding to install Trump's long-promised border wall between the United States and Mexico. Without this provision, according to the Republican Party, the government will continue to be shut down. And on the other, the Democratic Party, led by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Their ultimate goal is to deny Donald Trump the wall and to come to a compromise to restart the government, but not one that, in their minds, would hurt the American people. Each side is trying to appeal to their supporters, a not only clear objective but a necessary one. The ultimate goal of the Republicans is to ensure Trump's election to a second term as president, in spite of the numerous controversies regarding humanitarian efforts and supposed allegiances to the Russian, North Korean, and Saudi Arabian governments. The Democrats, on the other hand, want to appear strong after regaining the House during the midterm elections last November. With these goals in mind, both parties have played their chess strategies to perfection. The Democrats, of course, have turned down offer upon offer whenever the discussion shifts to the request for the border wall, which has, for the most part, been a point of satisfaction amongst the Democrats, continually bringing up Trump's poor conduct as president and the supposed spinelessness of the Republican Party for following him. Convincing Trump, too, to delay the State of the Union address until the shutdown is concluded was a substantial piece of strategy on their part. The Republicans, however, have carefully chosen what they would offer and their actions, such as increasing rights for Dreamers and those under temporary protected status and walking out of meetings after the moment of the wall offer decline. Trump has even tried knocking the Democrats down and even threatening to declare a national emergency if the Democrats didn't give Trump the wall. Trump canceling Pelosi's trips to Belgium, Egypt, and Afghanistan were also, on his part, an active display of power. So thus, both sides have reached a virtual stalemate. However, for this conflict to end, one of the two parties will have to do something they don't want to do. Zugzwang. What is zugzwang? Well, going back to the chess metaphor, a zugzwang is a situation in which one of the players is put into a disadvantage because they must make a move when they would prefer to pass, thus putting them at a disadvantage. In other words, the Republicans put the Democrats in a position where they will have no choice but to give funding for the wall, or the Democrats put the Republicans in a situation where they will have no choice but to give in on the border wall altogether. Either way, one of the parties would be giving up vast ground, and the results of the government shutdown could dictate the results of the 2020 election. However, the short-term effects will be the same. This is a chess game that no one will win. Not the Republicans, not the Democrats, not the people. No one wins from this. In the end, the shutdown has to end, and there needs to be a compromise reached. However, the government needs to remember one final thing. The people come first, no matter who declares checkmate. So what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree? Either way, please go to www.lovelearndebate.com, click on the debate section, and respond, please. And while you're at it, don't forget to like us on Facebook by going to facebook.com/lovelearndebate, follow us on Twitter @lovelearndebate, follow us on our Instagram page @lovelearndebate, subscribe to the podcast on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify, and don't forget to give us a review. 5 stars would be amazing. My thanks to Omila Rijani for the graphics and show soundtrack, Roy Aguilar for discussing Bowling for Columbine with me, Tom Hansen and Jack with No K for their amazing musical contributions to the show, and Lola Heffernan and Imogen Aiken for their tremendous generosity in lending their voices. That's it for this week. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks ready to go. Thank you guys for listening, and until next time, keep loving, keep learning, keep debating. We'll see you next time on the New School of Thought. Goodbye.
This has been an LLD production, recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.